Hello beautiful and welcome to Makeup. I have 7 hours and 7 minutes worth of footage that I have to edit now. I don't want to cry, you want to cry? Hello beautiful and welcome back to Water Cooler Convo Makeup, where I talk about either the things that you want me to talk about, I want me to talk about, or sometimes we meet in the middle and I talk about the things that we want me to talk about. And the highly requested History of the Beauty Community Scandals, Teas and Dramas Part 2 is here. 43 hours of research this video has taken me. I both unfortunately and fortunately have to inform you all that my original plan was to do 2 parts, which was Origins of YouTube to 2017 and then 2018 to now. The issue with that is that the first video card up there had about 11 pages of like notes that I wrote down from all my research. I've only researched 2018 and 2019. There's 22 pages for 2 years. So this is now going to be a 3-parter, maybe even a 4-parter, because there is just too much that happened in 2018 and 2019 for me to literally put it into one video with 2020 and 2021. My brain literally melted. It fried. It was an omelet at the end of it. My brain was an omelet. Tasty, but I don't promote cannibalism, but like it just, I still don't think I've recovered. So the new plan is first part already done, dusted, go check her out if you want to. This part is going to be 2018 and 2019 because she was just such a shit show. And part 3 is going to be 2020 to now. And then part 4 is going to be everything that I missed, because no matter how hard I try, I've missed something. I know I've missed something. I know I missed things in the first part, but I know that I've missed something here as well. And I know that I'm going to miss something in the next video as well. So we're just going to do a 4th part as well, which is, that's 8. 4th part as well, which is everything that I missed. I don't think I'm coping. So get your popcorn, buckle up buttercup, because we are in for a, not even a bumpy road, just like, we're in for Everest. Disclaimer and content warning. In this video, I will be discussing, as I said before, the history of the beauty community, dramas, teas, and scandals, specifically in 2018 and 2019. So in this video, I will be discussing the topics of racism, Dramageddon Part 2, which has James Charles's first set of predatory allegations, but also there is one story in the very beginning that does discuss domestic violence and murder. If you do find any of these topics triggering, please proceed with caution or consider clicking off the video altogether, because at the end of the day, I do not want any of my content to jeopardize your well-being. Also, this series of videos that I am doing is just supposed to be for some cheeky, messy fun. Not that I expect any of you to do this, but at the same time, I need to make sure that everyone knows that I do not encourage, promote, or endorse any malicious, harassing, negative behavior towards any of the people that I talk about in these videos. All of the stories that I've talked about in the previous video and this video are 3+ years old, so a lot of the consequences have already been faced or are something that are still being faced to this day. So I don't want any kind of negative behavior on my behalf to fall upon the people who have already apologized and made amends for their wrongdoings in the stories that I am discussing. So let's keep it fun, let's keep it messy, let's keep it cheeky, but let's keep it to this channel, these videos. I hope that I get that point across. Even though it makes sense up here, doesn't mean that I'm communicating it well. Keep it fun, keep it messy, keep it cheeky, but also keep it here. Here. With all that said and done, let's get going. Let's get started. Brace yourselves, because 2018 is an absolute freaking mess. Also, I've been getting quite a lot of comments asking me for a hair tutorial. So this isn't going to be so much a tutorial, just me showing you what I do. Because asking you shall receive. Also, there's so much information in this, I may as well pad some of the tutorial with me doing my hair as well, right? Either way, like a $10 hair curler from Kmart that's like 5 years old that I should really upgrade, because the plastic around it's starting to melt, which, look, I'm not the smartest baby cakes that exists, but I don't think the handle is supposed to melt. So for 2018, we're starting off in January. We did not pump the brakes when it came to the teas, the dramas, the scandals. The long-awaited Tarte Shape Tape Foundation was announced and was released. Tarte Shape Tape Concealer has been a huge thing for ages. It was everyone's go-to at one point. So when they announced that they were doing a foundation, everyone was like, yes, gospel, this is going to be my go-to, yes. There was talks about it, and then the photos on Instagram were released, and then people were thoroughly disappointed because there was 15 shades. 15 shades is just not enough to accommodate for every single skin tone. So that already was kind of underwhelming. 15 shades is kind of like, why'd you bother? But then you have a closer look at the actual shades. 12 of the shades were designated to people of a fairer skin tone. 1 shade seemed to be designated to people of a medium skin tone, and then 2 shades were designated to people of a darker skin tone. The whole collection was literally 50 shades of freaking beige. So when this first launched, of course, the internet was angry because 15 shades is not enough to accommodate for everyone. But not only is the 15 shades not going to accommodate for everyone, 3 shades for medium to dark skin tones is not going to accommodate anyone but like 3 people. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially because in September 2017, Fenty released their makeup company, and their makeup company came with foundations, I think possibly concealers at the same time. I'm just going off the top of my head, but at the same time their shade range had 40 shades, which is now expanded to 50. So in September 2017, like 4 months beforehand, we had this huge step forward in the direction it should have always been in to begin with, but we still had a huge step forward, and Fenty showed all these companies who were using the excuse that there wasn't a profit when it came to the medium to dark skin tones, which was a stupid defense in the first place, but all the companies that were saying, oh, there's no money in making the medium to dark skin tones, Fenty was essentially like, oh, is there not? Well then, why did we sell out? So for the makeup industry to take this huge step forward in a direction it should have always been in the first place, but for it to take this huge step forward, for Tarte to then release 4 months later a shade range of essentially nothing, it felt like a backstep, and everyone was like, yo, dude, why bother? I remember when this happened. I remember when the foundations launched, and when it first happened, I was very much like, I don't understand. But now that I've researched it, I don't understand how in all of the business meetings that would have been leading up to their launch, did no one sit there and be like, hey, so you know how Fenty launched, and you know how they sold out of all of their medium to dark shades, and everyone's like craving more brands to do that? Maybe we should hold off on our launch, and maybe we should make more shades before we actually launch the foundation, because you know what? Inclusivity should have always been there. I remember there being a defense from the company in this situation, and the defense was something along the lines of, we wanted to release these shades first, but we're working on more shades and we're working on having more inclusivity, but like, then just launch later. I know that Tarte would have lost money shelving stock, but at the same time, just do it right from the get-go. Then we jump over to February, where another makeup brand has themselves in a bit of hot water. This makeup brand being Kat Von D. In February of 2018, Kat Von D decided that she was going to collaborate with Green Day frontman Billie Joe Armstrong in an anti-precision eyeliner called Basket Case. No one seemed to have any issue with the eyeliner itself. That is until the marketing campaign came out. The marketing campaign was a photo of Kat and Billie wearing the eyeliner, recreating a photo of Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen. People took a lot of issue with this marketing campaign because it seemed to romanticize the relationship between Sid and Nancy. For those who don't know, Nancy and Sid's relationship did have a lot of mental health issues, a lot of domestic violence, and eventually Nancy's murder and Sid's eventual overdose. So not exactly the relationship that you should be romanticizing. So pair this marketing campaign, which is seemingly romanticizing a relationship that involves domestic violence, murder, and an overdose, with the name Basket Case. The word basket case meaning someone who is mentally and emotionally incapable of coping due to immense stress, strain, and trauma. People were not pleased with how insensitive Kat, Billie, and Kat Von D Cosmetics was coming across with the marketing campaign for the eyeliner. This story I genuinely wasn't expecting. I know of the Sex Pistols. I've probably heard like 1 or 2 of their songs, but I didn't know this part of the backstory of them. I don't think Kat or Billie intended to romanticize the relationship, but unfortunately that was the outcome. And as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So even though I don't think that was Kat or Billy's intention, unfortunately it was the outcome. Then in February we also have Jackie Einer, who got herself into a bit of trouble because of a giveaway that she did. In February, Jackie asked her fans on Twitter if I wasn't a YouTuber or a soldier, what would my career be? And then whoever got the answer correct got to win a Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette, which, like, cute, sounds fun. After Hannah was announced the winner, there was a few DMs from Hannah and Jackie. Hannah asking at one point if Jackie could sign the palette. Jackie said that that was fine, but Hannah would have to wait a little bit longer than usual because typically Jackie would buy directly from the seller and put in the winner's address so then it gets sent straight to them. But if Hannah wanted it signed, Jackie would have to send it to herself, sign it, and then post it out to Hannah. By the looks of the DMs, Hannah agreed not to do that and would just wait for the palette. Then there wasn't really any communication after that, and then Hannah tried checking up on the palette, being like, hey, any details? Hey, just checking up again. I think there was like 3-ish kind of messages. I am going to put the photos and stuff up during the video. She received no updates. Then Hannah said that she was going to make a formal complaint about Jackie and the giveaway to ASA. Jackie didn't respond, so Hannah did make the complaint to ASA. ASA responding to Hannah saying that they would instruct Jackie to send her her prize. Jackie then cancelled the giveaway, and Hannah messaged her saying that she was so disappointed in Jackie because she hosted a fake giveaway and hosted a scam. Jackie, of course, didn't take that well. A lot of hairspray. Jackie wrote back to Hannah specifying that the reason she cancelled the giveaway is because the correspondence with Hannah made Jackie feel extremely uncomfortable. Jackie also specified in, I'm pretty sure, a separate message that a scam is when someone takes your money or does something fraudulent and backs herself up. Jackie then further stands up for herself, saying that all of the giveaways that she has done has only ever been for spontaneous fun. She's not expecting and does not gain anything from it. Hannah then seemingly replied to this message saying, okay, I'm sorry, with a few emojis attached to it, so it seemed like water under the bridge until Hannah screenshot the private messages between herself and Jackie and leaked them. Of course, when the DMs were leaked, Jackie's fans were of course outraged and very disappointed in her, but at the same time, she's still got a very thriving career, and I haven't seen any comments rehashing any of the fake giveaway. So seemingly everyone's forgiven her, and it's just water under the bridge, and it's just a weird little moment in history. Yep. That's that one. Next! You know what? After my hair grows back after shaving my head, I'm gonna treat my hair so much better. I'm gonna stop using all these chemicals and heating tools and just tugging at it. I really went down the toilet. My hair is genuinely, like, naturally this kind of curly. I just don't look after it. Then when I'm up to this point, I just do a 2-strand twist braid around and behind my right ear. Most people think it's because of the grunge aesthetic. Yes, no, it's not because of the aesthetic. It's because of practicality. I cannot explain to you the amount of pain I had so many times because a single strand of hair wrapped around either the industrial or the forward helix or the back of my conch piercing, and just as soon as I pulled it into a ponytail, there was a quick little like because it was just so painful. Then we have Lucia Tappa. She has 24,000 followers on YouTube now, but back in April 2018, she got herself in a bit of hot water, like everyone else in this video. And she made quite a name for herself by being an anti-consumerism makeup channel. She actually makes quite a few decent points in her channel about consumerism, marketing, and the oversaturation in the makeup industry. And for those who watched her channel, loved this refreshing take that she had. One of the highlights on her channel was her video PR is Problematic, which, as you can tell by the title, was a video discussing PR in the makeup industry on social media and how that can be quite detrimental to a person's audience. Paraphrasing, she discussed how certain creators are sent thousands of dollars worth of makeup a day, a week, a month, and seemingly to a lot of these creators, it didn't faze them whatsoever what the price tag behind some of the makeup was. It could have been $10,000, but to them it was just a little blip, because in their wealth of views, subscribers, and money, it was just essentially nothing. So these people come off as quite ungrateful for the makeup that they're receiving, compared to some of their subscribers who are working their ass off at their jobs day in, day out, just to save up a little bit of their money so that they can afford one palette. That's very much me paraphrasing the video, but it's the general point of people are sent PR, don't seem appreciative, whereas their audience is having to work their asses off to be able to afford the makeup that these people are promoting, and it just doesn't seem fair, equal. Really, it just seems gross. This isn't for all beauty creators, but it is for some, and I do understand this point. From what I can see, Lucia actually had quite a lot of positive responses in the comments and a lot of people agreeing with her and agreeing with her points, so great, love that for her. The issue wasn't that video. The issue was a few videos later when she did a PR unboxing. In the video, she does specify that the makeup she is unboxing was sent to her for free by the company, but that she was not being paid to make the video and she wasn't asked to make the video in exchange for the free makeup. But regardless, this painted Lucia like a hypocrite. I've said before, and I'm pretty sure it was in my last video, that change is good and change is necessary for a lot of people and their lives and the lives that they want to have. The issue that people had wasn't so much that Lucia had changed, but that her morals and her ethics had changed. So it seemed from an outside perspective that she was hating on PR and people receiving PR until she herself received PR. When I was researching this video, as soon as I saw that she did a PR unboxing video, I was like, okay, cool, so I know exactly where this is going. Then in April, we have probably one of the most heartbreaking stories on the list. I had and experienced a lot of emotions whilst researching, and there is definitely someone in this story where I wouldn't mind keying their car. I'm not super into vandalism, but I would make an exception for this man. This story I'm talking about is the situation between Eden the doll, Isabel Bedoya, I hope that I'm saying that correctly, and Eden's former boyfriend Malik. On April 26th, Eden posted a video to her YouTube channel called He Cheated. You can see where my anger comes from. In this video, Eden summarized the whole entire situation that spanned over a few months. So even though this thing may have started back in, I think, March, it's being dished out in April. In the video, Eden recounts how she was either invited to her first brand trip or one of her first brand trips. Regardless, very exciting. The brand trip she was talking about was one with BoxyCharm and Per Cosmetics. Also for this brand trip, she was allowed to bring a +1, so she chose her boyfriend Malik. Another person that was invited, I say invited because depending on what source you choose, some people say that she wasn't actually invited. She had to kind of weasel her way in there, but regardless, she was invited to the brand trip was Isabel Bedoya, and she was also allowed a +1, so she chose her husband. When it came to departing for the brand trip, because I think from what I can see it was in Mexico, Eden decided to check in Malik first, but they got there a little bit later than expected, I'm guessing. And when she finished checking in Malik, she tried to check in herself and the check-ins were closed. So she could no longer check in for her flight, meaning that she couldn't catch the flight and she couldn't get to the brand trip on time. So she sent Malik ahead of her on the original flight so that he could go and represent her at this brand trip so that there was someone there representing Eden the doll. She then took a 2-hour Uber ride to a different airport in America and took a flight a few hours later, having to sleep in the airport for about 8 hours. So she got there 15 hours after Malik. Then when she gets there, she finds him drunkenly in their bed in a trashed hotel room, had an absolute night, and just by the looks of it made an absolute fool of himself. By the sounds of it, she forgave Malik for getting super drunk the night before and trashing their hotel room, and they decided to just enjoy the rest of the brand trip and do all the things that were intended for them to do. Then at one of the parties that the trip was hosting, Eden saw Malik doing some hot and heavy dancing with one of the other women at the brand trip, this person being Isabel Bedoya. Eden trusted Malik, so she really thought nothing of it by the sounds of it. Then Isabel's husband walked up to Eden, asked if she trusted him. She said yes. Then Isabel went up to Eden, doing apparently a very much like, why are you talking to my mans kind of situation. Claws were scratched, fists were thrown, wigs were snatched. It was a whole entire physical and verbal altercation and was incredibly embarrassing for Eden, and she was terrified that this was going to ruin any kind of brand relationship that she could potentially make on this trip. Luckily, and to the relief of Eden, no one seemed to have any kind of issue or blame to put upon her for the situation, but Isabel was essentially expelled to her hotel room until she could catch the next flight back home. Eden and Malik just tried to enjoy the rest of their brand trip, which fair enough, I do not blame them. But rumors, of course, flied after the altercation, and Eden was bombarded with DMs with people trying to get the scoop of the situation. It wasn't until BeautyCon that year where this situation had some sort of a resolution, because Isabel saw Eden and went up to her, and by the sounds of it, Eden was just terrified at the idea of Isabel approaching her. But much to Eden's surprise, Isabel actually was approaching her not to start a physical altercation, but to actually clear the air. But unfortunately for Eden, in clearing the air, Isabel apologized for hooking up with Malik on the brand trip. According to Isabel, in the 15 hours that Eden wasn't there while she was sleeping in an airport, her and Malik hooked up and spent most of the night together. And when I say hooked up, I mean they went all the way. They had some special adult times. And for the rest of the brand trip, apparently Malik was still messaging Isabel, hoping that they could hook up again. Eden then spent a lot of time at BeautyCon with Isabel, trying to look at DM screenshots, all the kinds of information to have a clear picture of what's going on. Hence why she made the video, because she found out that Malik cheated on her. So to really summarize, Eden's career was taking off, and she was invited to one of her first brand trips, if not her first brand trip. And given the opportunity, she was allowed to take a +1. So she decided to take her boyfriend so that they could celebrate this momentous occasion in her career, but also have a cheeky bit of fun together. And then when it came to check-in, she checked him in first, which really, never do that, but whatever. She checked him in first, which then made her miss her flight. And then she, like a boss-ass bitch, managed to find a different way to this brand trip because she really wanted to be there. Much respect to that. But in the 15 hours she wasn't there because she was catching a 2-hour Uber flying and also had to sleep in an airport, this ungrateful piece of trash meets Isabel for the first time, talks to her enough, gets drunk with her enough to go have sex in the hotel room whilst Eden isn't there on a brand trip that he's not even supposed to be on. I've taken dumps nicer than this man. Yes, they should have gotten to the airport earlier, but hearing the level of trash that this man is capable of, it wouldn't surprise me to hear that his laziness is what made them late for the airport in the first place. Also in this situation, it's possible that Isabel didn't know that Eden existed, but at the same time, she did cheat on her husband that was also coming late to the trip. So also gross. But that's April! Now on to June! Our first story for June starts with Jacqueline Hill and Morphy. Yay! This specific story is for Jacqueline Hill's Vault collection with Morphy. Essentially, the concept and marketing for this collection and collaboration was, the original Jacqueline Hill palette was so successful that we had to give you guys the opportunity to have all the things that didn't make it. Yay! Which, like, it's a decent concept, allowing people to have all the shades that didn't make it into the first palette. Dope. Love that. People were excited, people were hyped, people received it in their PR, and the reviews were trash. They were horrific. There was inconsistencies throughout the whole entire palette. A lot of the shades felt chalky and had lots of issues blending, and it just wasn't it. So Morphy decided that they would delay the launch. They reformulated the palette, losing millions bidding the old palettes, relaunching with the new palettes, and unfortunately, the reviews were exactly the same, and it was so underwhelming. Like, you go to all that effort reformulating and making something better just for it to be exactly the same. The formula was still patchy, still chalky, almost impossible to blend, and unfortunately the payoff of the relaunch and waiting just wasn't worth it. Jacqueline then posted a video to YouTube called Let's Talk, where she discusses all of the situation and addressing people's concerns and everything like that, and apologizing for what has happened. The video itself seems to have a lot of mixed reviews, in all honesty. Some people being like, oh, it's okay, it's not your fault. Then some people being like, ugh, why do you keep doing Morphy? Do something else. Stop coming onto YouTube if all you're going to do is sell us something. But regardless, in the video she addresses how heartbreaking the situation was, how sorry she is to everyone, and also specifies that she will be taking a break from Morphy because she hears everyone's comments about how she's been shoving Morphy down their throats lately. By the looks of what I can see, she didn't fulfill that promise. She still kept kind of collaborating with Morphy and still kept kind of shoving it down her audience's throats. I have personally never really watched Jacqueline's videos unless it is to do with any of the dramas, teas, and scandals that she's in, so I don't know if that's what happened. I'm just going purely based off of the comments that I've seen in quite a lot of her videos and also the other videos made by other commentary channels. But weirdly, the situation doesn't stop there, because in 2020, I just want to give you guys a cheeky little update on this palette because it got worse. In 2020, people started to notice that their palettes were growing mold. The weird thing that I found about researching this specific story is that when you Google Jacqueline Hill and mold, you get the lipsticks, and then after you search for a while, you get the eyeshadow. If your name and mold are found in two separate stories in Google, you're doing something wrong. Unless you're a microbiologist, but I don't think Jacqueline's a microbiologist. But because the Jacqueline Hill lipstick situation happened, a lot of the vault information is just gone because that version of Jacqueline and mold just is apparently more important to the masses. Luckily, Dustin Daly still has his videos up on the vault palette, so I've listed that in the description below because it's, if you forgot about it, it's a very interesting read. Watch, it's a YouTube video. Then we skip all the way to July 2nd, where Huda Beauty has released a collection of loose setting powders intended for baking on your makeup. Cute, love that for people. Doesn't work personally with my skin because it's so dang thirsty, but if it works for you, get it! The collection was called Easy Bake, and the marketing campaign for it was this pin-up bakery kind of vibe to it. In all honesty, it was a really cute vibe. I do really like the photos, but then you find out why people were mad about it, because Huda seemingly stole the idea from a smaller makeup brand. This company being Beauty Bakery, which in all honesty is very accurately named because all of the makeup products are based around baked goods and baking. In all honesty, I don't remember this story happening. I've never heard of this company, so I decided to go check it out because I was like, oh, okay, like how similar is it? One, pretty similar. Two, I'm so glad that I went and looked it up because oh my gosh, it's so freaking cute. It's so cute. Okay, so when I come into a bit of dollars, I'm going for this product. I'm going for this product because I never knew that I needed in my life a cute little egg carton with beauty blenders in it. But now that I know it exists, I need it. It's so cute. So I'm really excited for when your girl has some savings again because I'm getting my eggs. Back on track, Huda was of course called out for stealing from a smaller company, but also was called out for stealing from a woman of color and giving no credit. Beauty Bakery then posted to their Instagram saying, "Hey sweets, everyone's invited to the baking party, including Huda." And that was about it. People have seemingly forgiven Huda for this situation or saw some sort of falsality in the situation. I'm not too sure because Huda is still thriving as a company, but also an influencer. In regards to Huda not making an official statement on the situation, is it the most ethical or moral thing to do? No. But is it the smartest thing to do? Yeah. Even though I think people should be taking accountability for any of the crap things that they do, at the same time, a person not making an official statement on the crap things that they've done means that they cannot shove their foot further in their mouth. So good thing? Smart thing? Yeah. Also, if anyone is interested, I have listed Beauty Bakery in the description below because let's hype up an absolute freaking queen. Now we get on to August 2018. In all honesty, a lot of it to me seems like high school BS, which was really, really fun for me to research, but regardless, we're going to talk about the more light-hearted story first, and then we're going to get into Dramageddon Part 1, and also the situation between James Charles and Marlena Stell. Back in August, Nicole was at one point, or still is, on Kylie Cosmetics PR list. Dope, love that for her, and she posted one after the other a lot of positive reviews on all of the makeup that Kylie was releasing. She seemed to enjoy all of the makeup that she was receiving, and really, can you ask for more? But unfortunately for her, a lot of people saw this as fake, and a lot of people saw this as giving a positive review when some of the makeup didn't warrant a positive review, and just the oversaturation of certain keywords like super cute, super pigmented, just started to rub people the wrong way, and people started to just see Nicole as fake. Because of this, a few compilation videos were made about Nicole and her reviews of Kylie Cosmetics. These videos had a lot of meme quality to them, as well as having some funny music over the top, I'm guessing to emphasize the point of, oh my god sis, stop, this is too much. So at that point, that was kind of the drama. Someone really enjoyed the makeup that they got in their PR. cool. But people saw it as a fake review. If it was, I don't know. If it wasn't, I don't know. Just like, whatever, because then this is where it starts to make me a little bit like, really? This is what we're going for? Okay. So then after that, I found a video called When Kylie Kicks You Off Her PR List. And it's, once again, a compilation of Nicole giving negative reviews to a Kylie product. People, of course, were once again commenting on the compilation video, but this time, instead of the comments being like, oh my god, sis, stop, it's so fake, instead we had comments like, oh my gosh, she wasn't even trying to do a good tutorial. She wasn't even trying to do a good review. She was forcing it, blah, 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 blah. I can't specifically find if she was kicked off of the Kylie PR list, but either way, she was getting roasted in the comments about how she was purposefully doing a terrible job. And in all painful honesty, I kind of nothing this story, because in the grand scheme of things, why does it matter? It feels very much like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. She gives a positive review, she gets roasted. She does a negative review, she gets roasted. Like, how does a person win with that? Now it's time for the big guns. Let's get into Dramageddon Part 1. And I hear you asking me, JJ, how many Dramageddons are there? There's 3. There's 3 Dramageddons. Dramageddon Part 1 centers around Jeffree Star, Gabriel Zamora, Laura Lee, Nikita Dragon, and Manny MUA. So let's go. For a while, it seemed that Jeffree Star had a revolving door of friends. He would make a bestie and then they would collab together for a while, either in videos or sometimes in makeup collaborations, and then all of a sudden they would just cease to exist from his online life. Then in 2017, Jeffree posted on Twitter a photo with a cryptic subtweet being walking into my ex-best friend's funeral like this. Woo, savage, slay queen, get it, wow. People, of course, had noticed at this point Jeffree's long list of friends that no longer appear in his videos, so they, of course, started trying to ask him which ones he meant specifically. Was it Manny? Was it Laura? Was it Nikita? Who was it? And at one point, one of Laura's fans tried to defend her in the situation when it came to this photo, and then Jeffree's response was, Laura Lee's soul is pure evil. So, was it about Laura? I don't know. Like, if it wasn't to begin with, it sure is now. Then because of this, of course, there was a lot of backwards and forwards between all parties and just a lot of negativity getting thrown everywhere. Whatever, next. Then in August, the first of 2 Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star docuseries dropped. Not the one with the conspiracy palette collection, the first one, which goes into essentially what Jeffree's life is like. Him as a businessman, him as a social media influencer, him as a person, his families, his friends, his racist past. And then in this first docuseries, Jeffree actually says to Shane that people still see him as a bad guy after all this time in all of these ex-friendships. In the parts of the documentary where Jeffree talks about him and his ex-friends, he talks about how he did nothing but love and care for them, help them with their careers, starting off their careers, give them his connections, help them start their makeup companies, even do collaborations with them. And yet after all of that and him doing nothing but love them, it still gets thrown in his face and he is still seen as the bad guy, even though he did nothing but do good things for them. And this docuseries gave Jeffree a huge redemption arc, which won back the favor of the internet, forgiving him for all of his flaws and everything that he has done in his past. So this meant that when Gabriel Zamora posted a photo to Twitter with the caption, "Bitch is just bitter because we're better without him," or something like that, the internet was pretty quick to figure out who the cryptic subtweeting was about and figured out that it was about Jeffree. But with the new level of forgiveness that the internet had for Jeffree, the internet was quick to act in his defense. This meant dragging up old tweets from all of the 4 parties that were involved with the photo. 4 parties that were involved with the photo were Gabriel Zamora, Nikita Dragon, Manny MUA, and Laura Lee. And what the internet found was pretty spicy. The old tweets that were dug up were both fat shaming but also very racist. And this called for the cancellation of Gabriel, Manny, Nikita, and Laura. In my videos, I am trying really hard to add in a lot more photos and a lot more videos of the things that I am discussing so that people don't just have to listen and follow along, they can also visually follow along. But the issue that I have with reposting these tweets in this video is I just don't want these racist tweets within my videos. I don't want them to be a part of my content. Even if it is me discussing them, I still don't want to repost the photos. I don't want those to be a part of my videos whatsoever. So if you want to find the tweets, go to Google Images. I just they're not going to be in this video. I'm sorry. I don't feel comfortable with it. Either way, a few days later, Laura posted her My Apology video, which made the situation worse because this video was heavily criticized, heavily memed, and it earned her the nickname Laura Leech because by the looks of it, she was trying to force out tears instead of genuinely having them. Then a few days later, Gabriel made his video called My Truth. In this video, he specifies that the photo was initially taken to recreate Kylie Jenner's 21st photo with her and her sisters, but then Gabriel saw the opportunity to throw some shade at someone who was quite mean to his friends, being Jeffree Star, so he took the opportunity. Then after the photo was posted and everyone was receiving quite a lot of backlash, Gabriel decided that he was going to contact Jeffree and try and clear the air, but also get his side of the story. So I'm guessing because he was trying to get Jeffree's side of the story, Gabriel didn't necessarily know Jeffree personally, but in that he got Jeffree's side of the story, and in the video he publicly apologizes to Jeffree, publicly apologizes to his fans and everyone he's disappointed from his racist tweets, but then also publicly ends his friendship with Manny MUA, because I'm guessing that after he got Jeffree's side of the story, his perspective changed on the situation and their friendship. Manny then a few days later follows the trend and posts his own video called My Reality Check, where he apologizes for the situation with the Twitter photo and then apologizes to Gabriel for putting him in that situation. I'm guessing because he's possibly lied about his friendship and how things ended with Jeffree Star. He also apologizes for the tweets that he made and also apologizes to Jeffree Star. Jeffree seemingly wasn't fazed by the apology because he made some sort of Twitter post essentially saying, well, I'm happy, so like, can we leave it now, please? And then Nikita was seemingly silent throughout the whole entire thing. I couldn't find any statements, any videos, I couldn't find anything. But considering how well the my ... videos were doing for the other three, in all honesty, it was probably the smartest thing she could have done. The same thing that I said about Huda not saying anything about Beauty Bakery. If you don't say anything, you can't put your foot further in your mouth. Is it the ethical and moral decision? No. Is it the smartest decision? Yes. After this situation, all four parties seem to be doing okay in their social media presence. Like, they're not doing the best, and they definitely aren't doing as good as they were doing initially, but they seem to be doing fine. And if you think that was enough of a clusterfuck for August of 2018, we still got one more, because why stop there? Also in August of 2018, we have Marlene Estelle versus James Charles. For those who don't know, Marlene Estelle is a beauty influencer, but also she owns the brand Makeup Geek, which she built from the ground up. And in August, she posted a video called My Truth regarding the beauty community, which seemingly is a precursor to the video called Dear Influencers that she posted in 2019. It still has like a decent amount of views, but I hadn't heard of it until I started researching this video. But most of the points that she makes in this video seem to be that a lot of the influencers that we see in social media have quite an entitlement and sometimes need a bit of a reality check, I guess. And a lot of the points that she makes in this video are backed up in September when she has a Twitter fight with James Charles, because in a now deleted tweet, Marlena says that her and Netflix had started filming that day on a documentary exploring the behind the scenes of the beauty community and the beauty industry, coming from the perspective not only of an influencer but also a brand owner, being Marlena. Then only a few hours later, the next day, early in the morning, James Charles tweets to Netflix being like, hey, Netflix, I would really love to work on a behind the scenes documentary of the beauty community. Coming from a completely unbiased point of view, I already have everything mapped out. Let me know what you think. Email me, message me, let's get this done. Apparently he didn't get the memo that the documentary was being made, and unfortunately they did not pick him. Oofed. Then, in a series of deleted tweets, James must have caught wind of the documentary being made without him in it, so he started accusing Netflix and Marlena of stealing his idea. But then he threw some personal shots saying that his point of view would be completely unbiased, whereas there is no possible way that Marlena's could be, considering she posted a video essentially blaming all of her bad decisions with her business on the influencers. Marlena then backed herself up, saying that she is both a brand owner and an influencer and has been for quite a long time, and that she has a lot more years of experience in comparison to James because he is not yet 21. James then tweets back at her, that's right, I'm not yet 21. like a cheeky little bit of shade, I guess. Either way, there was disrespect being tossed around from both parties like monkey crap at a zoo. And in all honesty, this situation's kind of weird to me, because am I wrong in thinking that there are a lot of documentaries out there that deal with the same topics from similar perspectives, if not the same perspectives, done by different streaming services, different production companies, sometimes the same streaming services, the same production companies? So if James really wanted to get this documentary done, why is he not going to a different streaming service? Why is he not going to a different production company? If he really wanted it done, he would get it done. But instead, Twitter. Come on, man. Like, you're James freaking Charles. You had that many freaking followers. I'm sure there would be at least one company out there that would be interested in his perspective. Am I wrong? Like, there would at least be one. I'm not saying it would be a good company, but there's at least one. That's August. So now let's get into September. As for September, we have Jackie Einer again, because this time she decided to speak out against Jeffree Star, which apparently at this point in the internet was a cardinal freaking sin, because she tweeted out against Jeffree Star discussing his racist behavior and specifying that she does not owe him any forgiveness. This situation wasn't the first time that Jackie had called out Jeffree Star or Jeffree Star Cosmetics, because in 2017 she actually did an anti-haul video with makeup that she either won't be repurchasing or ever purchasing. One of the brands she specified was Jeffree Star Cosmetics. Then after a lot of back and forth on Twitter, it came down to Jackie will not support or purchase from a brand that she has any ethical or moral issue with, which, fair enough. It's how it works for a lot of people. What isn't stated, but I do assume from the timeline, is that the first Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson docuseries dropped, which, as I said before, gave Jeffree a redemption arc and gave him a lot of forgiveness from the internet. I have already voiced my thoughts and opinions on the docuseries in a previous video, so I'll leave a card up the top so that you all can check it out if you want to, but if you don't want to, that is a-okay. So because of this forgiveness, I kind of suspect that there was a lot of pressure on Jackie and other people like Jackie to forgive Jeffree, because if the internet's forgiven Jeffree, why hasn't she forgiven Jeffree? That kind of a vibe. And in this situation, I genuinely hope that I'm wrong, because I don't think anyone should ever be pressured into accepting a person's apology if they are not ready to accept an apology, or if they just don't want to. Like, don't force a person to forgive someone if they're not ready to. It's just gross. But also in some leaked conversations between Jeffree and his ex-hairstylist, David, Jeffree is seen texting David the N-word and also calling Jackie a gorilla. So not only is there racism, but also there's a personal attack. So I'm not surprised she doesn't want to forgive him. And I'm not surprised that she doesn't want to be involved with Jeffree Star Cosmetics. But also in September, a dream began to crack and then shatter. This dream I am talking about is the Lisa Frank makeup collaboration. And I hear you saying, but JJ, that exists. Morphy released it last year. Oh, no. That wasn't the first one. The first one was between Lisa Frank and Glamour Dolls. And let me just say, this one is so sad. So back in 2017, makeup company Glamour Dolls decided that they were going to collaborate with company Lisa Frank. Being an Australian, I think it was just an American thing, so I'm not really sure what Lisa Frank is specifically. I think it's stationery. Either way, Glamour Dolls and Lisa Frank announced that they were going to collaborate and do a Lisa Frank makeup palette. Yay! They even got another influencer, Candy Johnson, to promote the makeup collection. But to get the makeup collection underway, they used a Kickstarter. So depending on how much people pledged and paid on Kickstarter, depended on what part of the makeup collection they could get before it was really dropped. So you pledge $5, you get what looks to be a digital print of the entire makeup collection, to $200 where you get 2 times the amount of the full makeup collection. I think in a way to share it with your bestie. The initial goal was $30,000, but the Kickstarter actually raised over $310,000. That's just over 10 times the goal. It's an impressive Kickstarter. But the issue was that between the launch of the Kickstarter being in February of 2017 to the initial estimated delivery date, which was September of 2017, to September of 2018, which was the last official update from the company on the Kickstarter, was that the people that backed the Kickstarter, the people that pledged and paid money, still hadn't received their makeup. And to add even more salt to the already open wound, the makeup that these backers were promised was popping up on places like Amazon, places like Hot Topic, so they hadn't received their makeup yet. but other companies were receiving the makeup to sell it and make a profit. The Kickstarter is actually still up and still alive, and I have left that in the description below if you want to go check it out. But you can see the communication from the business to the backers has been quite inconsistent and also quite aggravating, because it just seems to be a lot of BS and a lot of excuses. Then by the time the initial delivery date rolled around and people didn't receive their money, communication seemed to get more inconsistent and more BS and more excuses. The last communication on the Kickstarter was September of 2018, which is when people started making videos and commentary on this specific subject. And unfortunately, like a lot of the other communication, it was very inconsistent, a lot of BS, a lot of excuses. At one point, they even used the phrase, more money, more problems. And then nothing. People had no makeup and were out of pocket for the makeup that they hadn't received yet. I don't think the initial intention of the collaboration was to be a scam, especially because Candy Johnson just doesn't seem like the kind of person to promote a scam. I don't know much about her, but she seems like a good enough egg to not promote a scam. But also Glamour Dolls does have a pretty legit website as well, and also has quite a lot of good reviews on some of their other products, both before and after this situation. But I definitely think they bit off a lot more than they could chew. But 2018 actually wasn't the last official communication from one of the business people, because in 2020 they made a communication for the first time in like 2 years, and to no one's surprise, there was a lot of character consistency, because there was a lot of, the world's a crazy time right now. Whoa! How's everyone doing in the pandemic? Whoa! Excuses, excuses, excuses. BS, 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 BS. The makeup still hasn't been done. We can't give back your money. We're so sorry. We're still working on stuff. More money, more problems. Am I right? I also read some of the backers' comments. They are obviously furious. They are demanding a refund. They are demanding their money back. They are calling it a scam. And they're just furious. They're livid. They're upset, which fair enough. I would also be upset. This last official communication was made in about April of 2020. And after that, once again, nothing. And I can't find if anyone is yet to receive their makeup or receive their money back. Then after researching this video, I realized that I'm sitting here 4 years after the initial Kickstarter began, and these people still haven't received the makeup that they were promised. They still haven't received any kind of refund. And like, that's just not right. There's over $310,000 collaboratively that is owed back to people, and I hope that they get what is theirs. And I think to be one of those people and see that the Morphy collaboration happened, that would, in all honesty, be gutting. Then in October, we have a situation between Tati Westbrook, Kiki Channel, and Emily Noel. In all honesty, I know that this was big news, but to me, this is a lot of high school BS. But here it is anyway. Back in 2018, Emily Noel and makeup brand Makeup Revolution did a collaboration on an eyeshadow palette called the Emily Edit. Then Tati made a video reviewing Makeup Revolution as a makeup company, but included in the video the Emily Edit palette as the eyeshadow for the look that she was doing to review Makeup Revolution. Tati specified in her video that it was purely about the makeup and nothing personal towards Emily herself. But the review was quite negative. She didn't have many great things to say. There was a few sprinkled in there, but there wasn't very many good things that Tati had to say of Makeup Revolution itself, but also the Emily Edit. And that's when Kiki Channel gets involved and does an emergency review of the Emily palette, spending the whole entire video hyping up the palette, hyping up Emily, and then trashing Tati in the process, essentially. Tati, of course, received a lot of negativity because of the negative review, and then she uploaded a video called I'm Done Being Quiet. With a lot of intended poise, she spent a lot of the video essentially tearing down Kiki with video and photo evidence backing up her points of all the hypocritical things that she had to say about Tati in her video, and essentially just putting Kiki in her place. Kiki Channel then later made an apology video to Tati, which it wasn't really an apology video. Kiki essentially did what Tati did in her I'm Done Being Silent video, adding in videos and photos from Tati's own content to back up her points made about Tati, and it was just a backwards and forwards between the two in summary. And while these two were battling it out, Emily was seemingly on Twitter defending her palette against comments that were talking about the inconsistencies and the quality of the shadows in the Emily Edit palette. And eventually all went their separate ways, and I'm left sitting here thinking, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because in essence, makeup is subjective. You're allowed to like what you want to like, and you're allowed to dislike what you dislike. That's it. Not everyone is going to have the same opinions as me. Not everyone is going to have the same opinions as you. That is why I find makeup so gorgeous, because there's different opinions, different perspectives, different outlooks, which creates different makeup looks, and it's just forever changing, forever growing, and that is what is good about the makeup industry. That is what is good about creativity in general. Like, don't purposefully go out there and give something a negative or a positive review, but if you don't like something, that's okay. If you do like something, that is also okay. I love apple pie. My sister hates it, and my sister is an abomination. Then in October, we also have Thomas Halbert versus Jeffree Star. In October, Thomas posted a video called Racism, Sexism, and Silence, where he speaks his mind and cryptically talks about Jeffree Star, and everyone kind of knew it was about Jeffree, including Jeffree. Then, of course, Jeffree being Jeffree took to Twitter to tear down Thomas in what seems to be some deleted tweets at this point. Jeffree specifies that Thomas came to his house to squish all the beef in their friendship and to clear the air between the two. Thomas then apparently asked Jeffree a lot of questions to do with the racism in his past, but also his past friendships, which Jeffree specifies that he answered 100% truthfully, not realizing that Thomas the whole entire time was texting everything that he was saying to Manny, Laura, and possibly Nikita. And by the sounds of it, Gabriel Zamora was possibly there, only because in Jeffree's tweets he specifies that Gabriel can 100% back him up on all of this. Or maybe later Manny, Laura, or Nikita showed Gabriel the text. I don't know. I don't really care. Jeffree then texted Thomas calling him out for all of this, and then eventually screenshot the texts and posted them to the internet. This, of course, did not paint Thomas in a really good light, because in the texts, Thomas essentially confesses to going behind Jeffree's back, telling Manny, telling Laura everything that Jeffree told him. This story once again happens after the Shane and Jeffree docuseries, where the internet was very much in love with Jeffree and ready to defend him no matter what cost, and that cost with this story was essentially ruining Thomas's career. Thomas then took to the internet to apologize for the situation. He apologized for being seemingly manipulative with the video that he posted, but how he still stands by the fact that when he was at Jeffree's house to clear the air, Jeffree did use the N-word in front of him. Then we get to November, and November has a messy one, being the Kenza Cosmetics brush scam and scandal. For those who don't know what the situation is, Kenza Cosmetics was a makeup company that was apparently selling makeup brushes that were worth about $40. Wow! But they were selling them for just shipping. Ew! Get expensive brushes, but for cheap. The two biggest influencers who were paid to promote this company, but also this brush scandal, were Tana Mojo and Gabby Hanna. I've already done a video covering this, so I'll leave the information up the top in a card for you. But I'm still going to cover it anyway, just less thorough than what I did the first time. From what I remember and what I saw of this situation at the time, the commentary channel that dropped most of the information when it came to this situation was Marky, and I will leave him in the description, because most commentary channels at the time that were covering this were just like, wow, Gabby and Tana were promoting a brush scam, crazy! Whereas Marky actually went to the website itself and looked at the FAQs and the about section and found that it was actually copied and pasted from other websites, because in the returns policy it specified CDs, DVDs, other software, and other hardware. So it's like, if you're a brush company, why is there a returns policy for a DVD? But also he did a reverse image search and found that the brushes could be found on like Amazon or AliExpress for like the same price. But also people just didn't receive the brushes. Tana and Gabby were of course called out heavily for promoting a scam, but also a scam that cost their subscribers money. Gabby was definitely called out a lot more than Tana in this situation, mainly because Gabby made a video addressing the situation where she used the phrase manage your expectations. People found this quite insensitive and quite removed from her audience, because essentially she was blaming her audience for buying into a scam that she was paid to promote, which, as you can guess, didn't go well for her. Then we jump to November, where James Charles has released his first collaboration palette with Morphy, being, I think it's called the Artistry palette, but he made a video on YouTube promoting it, talking about it, showing everyone what it is, showing everyone the swatches. And it's the swatches that got him so much backlash. And in the grand scheme of things, why? This was big freaking news, and all I have to say is why? Why, in the grand scheme of things, not even just in the beauty community, but also in the grand scheme of things that James Charles is involved in, why do we care about swatches? James then did I think it was a Snapchat of him re-showing the swatches of the palette, specifying that the black shade, because it was specifically the black shade was buildable, and he wasn't getting the pigment on it the first time because it was buildable, and he wanted to show off the best part of the pigment. And it's like, okay, but like, if one of the best parts of your palette is the fact that it's so buildable, why aren't you showing that in the swatching video? This story is the most amount of meh you can really get. Then the final story of 2018. Yay! The final story of 2018. We haven't even gotten to 2019 yet. That's what I mean by there's just so much in these 2 years. The final story of 2018. Let's go. The final story of 2018 features a lovely creator called Eltoria. Woo! Welcome to the club, baby cakes. It's a pleasure to have you. Apparently, Eltoria did not get the memo about terrible advent calendars from the Zoella situation the previous year, and she decided that she was going to sell handmade advent calendars that she made for a price of £49, but in each advent calendar there was going to be about £90 worth of product. Ow, what a steal! And people were super excited until they received their advent calendars, because nothing ever goes wrong with advent calendars, and people started to notice some things that were a little bit weird and a little bit inconsistent. One of the inconsistencies that people found is that on one of her socials she posted the blood sugar palette saying, will this be in your advent calendar? Ooh! But by the looks of it, everyone who ordered the advent calendars got different products in their advent calendars, so some people bought it thinking that they were going to get a blood sugar palette, and then the blood sugar palette wasn't in there, or they were like, hey, what the heck? Where's my blood sugar? But then another inconsistency was that at one point she did an unboxing of the Body Shop, where she unboxed a white musk body lotion and specified that she isn't a huge fan of the scent, and it's not something that she would necessarily go for if it wasn't for the fact that it was in this advent calendar. But then it showed up in someone's advent calendar. If you don't like a specific product, why are you putting it in your advent calendar, especially if the advent calendar is handmade? Like, I hate licorice. If I'm doing an advent calendar, I'm not putting licorice in there. Doesn't make sense. And in an unboxing and review on Mercedes Wilson's YouTube channel, she found quite a lot of products that seemed to be used. One of them being a brush from the Body Shop. Like, it just didn't seem clean. There was also some sort of a lip balm that seemed to have like some crustiness to it, like it had been exposed to quite a lot of oxygen, as well as this platinum blonde toner shampoo kind of situation, which seems like a very specific thing to have in an advent calendar box. Also, apparently that seemed a little bit empty in comparison to what you think a full bottle would be. And I actually watched a repost of Mercedes' unboxing video, and it is hard to watch. It is, you can see the disappointment on her face, and I couldn't imagine doing that. So with all this information kind of put together, it kind of looked to the internet and to the masses that Eltoria's handmade advent calendar was actually a lot of PR that was used and unwanted that she wanted to get rid of. She just repackaged her used or unwanted PR into these advent calendars. After all the backlash, Eltoria did give refunds to everyone who had purchased one of the handmade advent calendars, and also made a statement to the Metro about how she is so thankful for all the love and support she's been given, but she's sad to see that the internet's assumptions are being taken as fact. So she didn't confirm or deny, but at the same time, from the looks of the boxes that everyone received and just the mismatch of everything and just the inconsistencies, something was wrong, something was up, something was fishy. And if there is any truth in repackaging old used PR and charging people money for it, gross, disgusting behavior. And do you want to know the good news? Do you want to know the good news? That is 2018 done! That's it. She's done skis. That is 2018 wrapped up in this absolute mess. If you need to pause the video, go have a pee break. Go grab some new popcorn, because I'm pretty sure your popcorn that you started at the beginning of this video is cold. Go do that. I'll see you when you get back. Or maybe just pause and have a breather and just really digest everything that I just said. Okay, 3, 2, 1. 2019. Our first story is in January and features the company Elf. And I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting to research this story or hear about this story or that this story even actually happened, but apparently it did, because in January of 2019, Elf Cosmetics was fined $1 million because of sourcing parts of their false eyelashes from North Korea. I'm not gonna lie, there is a lot of holes in my understanding with this one because I don't understand a lot of laws, regulations, and all that kind of stuff when it comes to trading between countries and specifically North Korea, but apparently there are some big laws, and Elf accidentally broke one of them. But from what I can tell, Elf has 2 manufacturing companies in China where they get their fake lashes made, or as I like to call them, eye feathers, because they look like feathers on your eyes. With these manufacturing companies, Elf decided to do a self-audit and found 2 kind of sus, sketchy, third-party suppliers. They later found that these 2 suppliers were in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and that is where they sourced some of the materials for their false lashes. This broke a lot of laws, rules, and regulations, and really Elf could have been facing a fine of up to $40 million, which that is quite a lot of money. But also by the looks of it, Elf was actually granted quite a lot of leniency in the situation, which is why they didn't have to pay the $40 million and instead were fined $1 million, mainly because the lashes didn't actually make a substantial profit for Elf. The company's personnel didn't realize that the materials were sourced from North Korea, and also Elf did the self-audit and Elf reported the findings that they had instead of keeping it to themselves and letting things get either swept under the rug or keep using the materials that they knew were sourced from North Korea. Happy 2019! Then in March, we have makeup company Stila making headlines for all of the wrong reasons, like everyone else in this freaking list, because Stila was accused of darkening a model's skin tone once again. 1, how does this happen the first time? 2, how do you not learn from the first time and not do it again? And funnily enough, the first time that this happened was in November 2018, so only like 4 months beforehand. The reason why I didn't put it in November was because I knew that I was going to be talking about it again, because the company apparently did this twice, because the first time just wasn't enough. So the first time was because of this photo, and Photoshop savvy people realized some inconsistencies when it came to the skin tone and the airbrushing and the Photoshop in it, and they realized that something wasn't adding up and the model's skin tone was too inconsistent and was probably a lot fairer than what was actually being shown in the photo. Stila then made 3 tweets addressing the situation, apologizing for the situation, and essentially saying that they promised to do better and they will educate themselves more and educate their workers more and blah 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 blah, and the internet seemingly forgave them until the second time happened, because when people went to Ulta, they saw a display for Stila and they weren't entirely convinced that the woman on the right was a woman of color. Then the internet, being the internet, found the model in question and found that she in fact was not a woman of color. One person even DM'd her asking if she knew about the situation. She responded to them essentially saying no, she didn't know, no of course she wouldn't allow for a company to do this, and she would be contacting her agents and her lawyers to sort this situation out. So this means that not only did Stila darken a model's skin tone again, but also they did it without the model's knowing and the model's permission. Like, I don't think that's legally a part of a contract, but also I don't think it should have to be. And if you thought that the list so far has been absolutely enough for you, brace yourselves, because now we are up to Dramageddon Part 2. This is, and I don't think it's an understatement in me saying this, the biggest drama scandal situation of the beauty community on YouTube, because it even had traditional media jump in and comment on it too. This one involves Tati Westbrook, James Charles, Gabriel Zamora, and Jeffree Star. There's literally 3 pages on this one story. And I'm not even writing ridiculously big. It's literally 12 Arial. How do you say that word? Let's start at the beginning. So essentially, James Charles went to Coachella weekend 1 back in 2019. Everything was great. Everything was dandy. He went with his friends and also a guy that he was seeing at the time. Apparently, that relationship went sour really fast. So then Coachella was ruined. And then with a spontaneous decision later, James and his friends decided to go back for weekend 2 for Coachella. So for the first weekend, James and his friends and his flames seemed to have artist passes, which from my understanding is like the VIP of the VIP. VIP, but then because they were doing weekend 2 spontaneously, they didn't acquire any artist passes and instead just got regular VIP passes. So from what I can gather with these passes, the artist passes are ones that you can't really buy. You either have to be invited by Coachella as an actual artist performing or be invited as a representative of a brand. Whereas VIP is open to everyone. It just depends on how willing you are to pay a really intense amount of money to go. So that means that regular people can be VIP. So because of this and James only having a VIP pass for the second weekend, he was apparently getting bombarded, harassed by fans, which, yeah, I wouldn't enjoy to go to a festival and be bombarded and harassed by people to take photos and stuff. I would want to be there to have fun. So like, yeah, I understand that, I guess. So because James felt incredibly unsafe in the VIP section, he started contacting all of the brands and influencers he knew to try and scrape together an artist pass. Nikita actually backed up James in this part of his story, showing text messages between the two in screenshots that she later posts to Twitter. Essentially, James messages her being like, hey, do you have any contacts here to be able to get me an artist pass? She's like, heck yeah, let me get you in contact with Sugar Bear Hair. And he's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And then Sugar Bear Hair was like, heck yeah, we'll have you on. In exchange for giving James the artist passes, 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 that is a mouthful. In exchange for giving James these artist passes, Sugar Bear Hair seemingly just asked him to make a few posts in his Instagram story promoting Sugar Bear Hair. For those who don't know, Sugar Bear Hair is a vitamin company. They are promoted a lot by the Jenner sisters and the Kardashian sisters. They look like these. Okay, vitamins. Cool. What's the big issue? James Charles had a very public relationship and familialship with other beauty creator Tati Westbrook. And I say familialship because he used to start off texts by the looks of screenshots, hey mum, so like a motherly figure, a work mum. It's cute. But the issue is that she owns a company called Halo Beauty, which is another vitamin company and therefore a direct competitor of Sugar Bear Hair. So because the conditions for James to get the artist passes at the second weekend of Coachella was to do a promotion on his Instagram story for Sugar Bear Hair, he was posting and promoting his work mum's rival vitamin company on his Instagram story. Tati then of course saw this Instagram story series and Tati was upset. She was very, very upset. And then she took to her own Instagram story crying about how heartbreaking this is and how betrayed she felt because of the situation that was going on. But I'm not sure if she specifically names James, but everyone was able to put 2 and 2 together. At first, the internet was very much like, woo, shade, because it just kind of seemed like a friend who didn't appreciate another friend. So it didn't really seem like anything until Gabriel Zamora got in the middle of it. Gabriel chimed himself into the middle of the situation by uploading a video to YouTube called Makeup and Opinions. And in summary, the main idea for the video was essentially there's bigger things going in the world than crying over some vitamins on the internet. Gabriel's video was posted May 5th, and then May 10th, Tati came out and completely shocked and destroyed the internet with her Bye Sisters video. In this 40-minute video, she discusses the Sugar Bear Hair situation, including a bit of a conspiracy theory in the situation where apparently the James Charles Sugar Bear Hair thing was pre-planned. She also specifies in Bye Sisters that James didn't actually contact her before posting the ad about Sugar Bear Hair, which James actually proved was false in his second apology video that I will discuss later. She also specified how she was always a great, supporting, loving friend to James. When it came to his collaboration with Morphy, she was always hyping it up. When it came to his first contract with Morphy, when it came to him being a brand ambassador, she was the one that helped him get more money out of the situation that she thought he definitely deserved. And she also specified that he did her makeup for her wedding, so now watching her wedding video is going to be really, really hard because he's just always going to be there. So she painted this colossal picture that she was the best friend that James could have ever had, but she did not do the same for James and essentially tore him down in the video and tore down his character and tore him down as a friend, because she talked about how she was always hyping him up and hyping up his makeup palette with Morphy, hyping up his business adventures, all that kind of stuff. But then when it came to her vitamin company, he specified that he couldn't promote that on any of his socials because his audience was too young and there is no need for vitamins, and it just felt a bit unethical and immoral. And she apparently graciously understood that, but then he goes to Coachella and as soon as he gets back posts an ad for Sugar Bear Hair, which is a vitamin company. So a little bit hypocritical. So according to this video, Tati always hyped up James, but he never hyped her up the same way, and then if anything actively tried to screw her over business-wise. But all of this seems like some petty friend kind of high school drama, right? Right. Until she starts discussing the situation that James had with Marlene Estelle and started talking about how disrespectful he was to her and how entitled he was in the whole entire situation. And then she goes on to discuss how James knows how young his audience is and how overly sexual he is in his content, knowing how young his audience is. And then Tati makes a statement, and I'm paraphrasing a bit with this one. Oh my god, you once again tried to trick a straight man into thinking he's gay, and somehow you're the victim. Tati then spends the rest of the video accusing James of being a sexual predator towards straight men. Tati then spends the rest of the video painting an awful, toxic picture of James being a gay man who preys after straight men, trying to convince them that they're gay, manipulating them and gaslighting them in the process. She also takes the time in the video to call out Gabriel Zamora for the video that he posted, because according to Tati, Gabriel was actually in the room with her and James when James was discussing one of his manipulative endeavors. She also specifies in the video that she is actually afraid of James, and James is only 19 at this time. This whole entire video was a huge mic drop moment on the beauty community. James then posted his first of 2 apology videos on the situation, and the first one, in all honesty, was just awful. You could tell it wasn't planned out, but also people had a lot of comparisons between it and the Laura Leach apology video. Also, in Tati's video, she does specify that one of James's victims was a waiter in New York at her birthday party. It's a key piece of information because a few days later, the waiter actually made his own video on the situation. This video had a lot of screenshots of texts between himself and James, but also he specifies in it that at first he was kind of into it, but then later he figured out that he just wasn't, and then did the right thing and broke it off with James before it went any further. The texts that he then received from James after he broke things off with him were quite dismissive of his sexuality and were quite patronizing. But then later the waiter made another video. This video apologized to James for leading him on due to a lot of pressure from his friends for drama and followers. He also publicly apologized to James for the first video that he posted, but from what I can find, both of these videos have since been deleted. Then on May 17th, Tati uploaded another video which seems to be in between the 2 uploads made by the waiter. This video essentially was just thanking everyone for the love and support and how she didn't expect for this video to get so much traction. But she also specified in this video that she didn't hate James and she wanted people to stop sending him so much hate. You literally called him out for being a predator. You didn't think it was gonna be that big? Okay. I'm trying to find the logic, but I just can't. Then Jeffree Star made a series of tweets coming after James Charles, but also in one of them came after his brother Ian. Jeffree did receive a lot of backlash when it came to the tweets he made against Ian, so he deleted them because Ian did nothing wrong in this situation. The only thing that he did wrong was share some DNA with James. Also, Jeffree Star owns a merch company which at one point did sell Sisters apparel, being James Charles's merch, and Sisters apparel was removed from Jeffree Star's merch company during this situation. And eventually, on May 19th, James releases his second apology video, which was a whole lot better. It was very well planned, very thought out. There was lots of receipts. It was called No More Lies, and I would say it is just as well known as the Bye Sisters video, being Tati's original video on the situation. In this video, he tears down every single accusation that is made against him. He tears down Tati, and he also tears down Jeffree Star, posting up screenshots and receipts and everything to debunk all of the accusations being made against him. Essentially, any accusation that was made against James Charles in the last few weeks was completely debunked with this video, with a lot of screenshots, a lot of receipts, and a lot of people backing him up, including other influencers on the platform. Then 2 days later, Jeffree Star jumped onto YouTube and made his own video called Never Doing This Again. Essentially, the video was him saying that he talked big on Twitter, but he's better than that, and he's more mature than that, and he isn't going to make the video that everyone wants him to make, which was originally intended to add more fuel to the I Hate James Charles fire. In the time between Tati posting her first video and James posting his second video, James lost millions of followers. But then after James posted his second video, essentially anyone that went against him initially lost followers, lost parts of their career, and just dive bombed when it came to subscribership, and James gained back all of the millions that he originally lost. My opinion on this flaming dog poop of a situation, with all of the hindsight that I now have is this. If these allegations are or were true, these are valid things to call a person out for, because this is some disgusting behavior that deserves to suffer consequences. And Tati specified in her first video that she knew for a decent amount of time that he was capable of this kind of behavior and that he was doing this behind the scenes. For her to call him out publicly, and yes, I know that there is more to the story with Dramageddon Part 3, but for the moment we're just covering this one. But for her to publicly call him out for criminal behavior, he had to do something personal to her. He had to go against her vitamin company. Only reason these serious allegations were made were because of vitamins! It was because of vitamins. It was because of vitamins. It was because of vitamins. The only reason that this even got out was vitamins. Oh my god! And hypothetically, if these accusations are true, if James never promoted Sugar Bear Hair, would Tati have ever called him out? We'll never know, but riddle me that. Also in May, James cancelled his tour because he was still coping from Dramageddon Part 2. Not surprised. Next! Also in April, Jeffree Star Cosmetics was robbed. So there are quite a few commentary channels who have commented on this. There is some evidence to suggest that this robbery didn't happen. I'm not saying if it did or if it didn't, whatever. Either way, from the perspective of Jeffree Star and from the perspective of the time that this happened, people broke into one of Jeffree Star's warehouses. They stole a whole shade range of Jeffree Star's soon to launch Magic Star Concealer, along with a heap of the Blue Blood palettes. Jeffree and a lot of the higher-ups who also worked for Jeffree Star Cosmetics started overhauling security, started overhauling protocol, and started interviewing a lot of their workers because they were convinced that it was an inside job. A lot of the information can be seen in one of the episodes of Shane and Jeffree's second docuseries. Cops were apparently called, also the FBI was apparently involved, and then some idiots started selling them on Facebook. And I'm saying idiots because if the robbery is true and the robbery did happen, then that means that these items were hot. These items were glowing metal kind of hot. Don't sell them. My gosh, wait a bit. Wait for them to cool down. Hot diggity damn. When you have coffee, you're gonna drink it when it's boiling? No. Otherwise you burn your taste buds. Literally, if you're gonna sell makeup that is that sought after, that is that hot, then you're just asking for jail time. If it is true, I think he was a lot more put together human being than I ever would be in the situation. But also, what a fabulously timed plot. Then on June 6th, the FDA came out and said that there was a contamination of asbestos in Claire's makeup, specifically the JoJo Siwa makeup set collection. For those who don't know what asbestos is, you definitely don't want to find it in your makeup because cancer. Claire's was very quick to act, recalling all of the makeup and refunding anyone that had purchased the makeup, but also JoJo was very quick to act, posting a video to a YouTube channel addressing the situation, encouraging anyone who has bought the makeup to take it back because there has been a huge recall on all of the makeup because she doesn't want anything to get any of her fans sick, because at the end of the day, it is her face on this makeup. My only two thoughts on this situation are, how does asbestos get in makeup? That's number one. And then number two is JoJo handled this with incredible amounts of maturity, and it was really refreshing to see. And for someone who was like 17, 16 at the time, like she was doing a lot better than a lot of the 30-year-olds that are beauty creators on this platform. Insert Jacqueline Hill. Back in July of 2019, Jacqueline Hill launched her first makeup launch. Yay! With Jacqueline Cosmetics, her own makeup company. Look at her go, mum. First thing that I remember people saying about the situation was that if this was 2015, people might be excited about it, but she'd been teasing this makeup collection for so long, people were kind of bored already before it even launched, which is I guess sad. Either way, Jacqueline released 20 shades of nude lipsticks. The PR box, in all honesty, was really dope looking. I did enjoy the PR box, but that's not the entire scandal, because people saw it, they were kind of excited, people bought it, people received it in their PR, people received it from their purchases, and then people started to notice that there was a few things that were a little bit wrong. Some people received their lipsticks completely melted. Some people received lipsticks and it seemed to have these little fuzzy things on it, which people were really concerned were mold. Some people received a lot of bubbling in their lipsticks. And then one person even found a shard of something in their lipstick. How? With the first photo that was posted on Twitter that was like, hey, Jacqueline, what's wrong with my lipstick? Jacqueline was, of course, very quick to respond and defend herself in the situation and defend her makeup company, essentially saying this is definitely a used lipstick lipstick, some of the dry fuzzies and all of the inconsistencies can come from someone with too oily skin or too dry skin, blah, 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 blah. But then a lot of people started clapping back at her, essentially saying this isn't the only person, this isn't the only inconsistency, this isn't the only lipstick. So because of all this backlash, Jacqueline and then Jacqueline Cosmetics were quick to go into overdrive trying to figure out the situation, rectify the situation, and salvage what they could of the launch. Essentially saying, if the lipstick doesn't look okay, don't use it, was the best that they could do. Evidence has apparently come out against Jacqueline and Jacqueline Hill Cosmetics, essentially saying that all of the FDA approved PPE components, ingredients, not all of them were actually FDA approved. Also, evidence came out that the lipsticks were apparently manufactured years ago. Jacqueline eventually made a video that she posted to her YouTube video talking about the lipsticks, trying to debunk all of the things that were being said on Twitter and all of the things just at this point being said on the internet. Jacqueline said that the little fuzzies on the lipsticks were actually from the gloves that people were wearing in the lab while the lipsticks were being manufactured. These gloves are apparently not FDA approved, so that's also a lie. And she also specifies that the black dots are oxygen. So from what I understand about chemistry, lies. I don't know much about making makeup, but I know enough about chemistry to kind of know what I'm talking about. If this is indeed oxygen, we all know oxygen. Oxygen is clear. If the oxygen in the lipsticks is now black, that means that a chemical reaction has occurred. And a chemical reaction has occurred because why? There was a color change. An indicator of a chemical reaction is a color change. So that means that what's possibly happened is an oxidation reaction. So that means that one of the intended final chemicals of the lipstick has possibly become an oxide derivative. One of the most common oxidation reactions that everyone knows is actually rust. For example, zinc is a metal, it is silver in color, but when it becomes zinc oxide, it becomes white. That's rust. That's just a specific zinc rust. So is it possible that this is oxygen? Yes. But is it also possible that Jacqueline Cosmetics accidentally made an oxide derivative of a chemical that they didn't intend to make an oxide derivative? Yes. But I think the most concerning thing about this is if you don't know what oxide derivative you made, how do you know it's safe for skin? So is it possible that it is oxygen? Yes. But color change, fam, means a chemical reaction. You know, oxygen, that black gas. You know the one. Also, there has been some videos and some information posted showing that there is a mold issue when it comes to these lipsticks. Also the bubbling in the lipsticks does look like oil that just hasn't been mixed properly or stored properly or is just old. And then also when it comes to the shard that was found in one other person's lipstick, stupidity. Regardless, people found the way that the situation was handled by Jacqueline Hill and Jacqueline Cosmetics was just awful and not up to par. Then after all of this information came out, Marlena Stella came out with her iconic video Dear Influencers, which went quite viral, which discussed a few different bits and pieces about the beauty community itself, but it also discussed the Jacqueline nude lipstick situation. Because fun fact, Marlena Stella actually passed on one of the labs that manufactured some of Jacqueline Cosmetics because she didn't find that the health and hygiene of the lab was up to scratch. Essentially, Marlena saw some sanitary issues and said that's not good enough for my company, so she didn't work with them. Jacqueline apparently didn't have the same experience for one reason or another. So this of course sent more hate Jacqueline's way. One thing I do remember from this is afterwards Jacqueline did take some time away from the internet, and when she came back she'd gained a bit of weight. The internet was quite ruthless. There was a lot of fat shaming comments, a lot of comments on her body, and I don't care how much she dropped the ball when it came to these lipsticks, when it came to running this company and handling it afterwards. I don't care how much she dropped the ball with that. It is not an excuse to tear her down simply because of her body. To some people, she may not deserve this kind of kindness, but I don't think under any circumstances it's okay to tear a person down for their weight. But since this lipstick situation, Jacqueline Cosmetics has released other products, and I can happily say that none of them contain mold. It's a very low standard, but it's a really good standard to have. But luckily or unluckily for us, that is not it for June, because in June we have a situation, a story, a scandal, which involves Juvia's Place. Juvia's Place is a makeup company proudly owned by Nigerian-born Chichi Uduru. I hope that I'm saying that right, but knowing me and how I am with languages as a whole, I'm butchering it and I'm so sorry. Juvias Place is of course known for their highly pigmented eyeshadow palettes, but also the gorgeous packaging that goes with it. But in June they launched their highly anticipated foundation range. The launch was going well until Jeffree Star, who was known to have quite a racist past, decided to do a review seeing if the foundations were Jeffree Star approved. Jackie, Einer, Alyssa Ashley and Naima Tang all were silent throughout the launch, but had quite a lot to say on Twitter once the launch had happened. To summarize the situation from their perspective, Juvia's Place had no desire to collaborate with them until the foundation launched and they received it in their PR. And people theorized that this was because people would be seeking out their reviews, out their opinions of the foundation range because they are all women of color. The feeling that all of them seem to have is that a lot of other creators were prioritized over the creators of color. Hence why Jeffree Star getting involved and doing a review of the foundation on his channel, being someone with quite a racist past and also making some quite nasty comments about Jackie Einer in the past, rubbed people the wrong way. Jackie also specified on Twitter that she would continue to support other incredible self-made black-owned beauty brands who support everyone, not just use their black customers for mainstream views. Kiki then came onto Twitter and defended herself in this situation, saying that Jeffree Star was not paid for his promotion, specifying that the company was just excited to have someone of his follower wealth do a review. And then a few days later went on a huge Twitter rant tearing down Jackie Einer, saying that she isn't pro-black. Jackie responded to this essentially with a meme and the caption, "Anywho." Then we jump to August. In August, 2 beauty creators attended BeautyCon and they were treated like trash and then voiced their opinions in a YouTube video. And this video got quite a lot of attention. Sierra Schultze, who had about 870,000 followers on YouTube at the time, and Skylar Pollitt, who had about 18,000 followers on Instagram at the time, were invited to attend BeautyCon. Sierra had been invited to the convention, very exciting, and both of them received wristbands, which means that they were able to get into special areas because they were influencers. But for some reason they were treated incredibly poorly and they found that the overall convention wasn't up to scratch. When it came to the organization of the convention, the two specify in their video, but also in further statements, that the organization of the convention was an absolute mess. Workers in security didn't know where specific locations were, and staff just in general looked overworked, overwhelmed, and just incredibly frustrated because they were overworked, overwhelmed, and understaffed. The invite also specified that there would be free food, but all of the food was completely gone within the first hour. Skylar at this point being heavily pregnant. Let her eat. But on top of that, Skylar and Sierra had wristbands specifying that they were allowed to get into VIP sections, yet when it came to these VIP sections, there were some security and staff members who apparently would look them up and down and wouldn't let them in, even though they had the wristbands that allowed them into the specific section. Also, by the looks of the initial video that they posted, there was a few clips of other influencers laughing around them, and it seemed that some of the humor was directed at both Sierra and Skylar because they didn't look the part. The two then specify in the video that they think that they were met with this treatment just because their body shape doesn't fit the stereotypical beauty influencer body vibe. This video got a lot of attention, enough attention that the CEO and other higher-ups for BeautyCon decided to do a live stream addressing the video and addressing the situation. And they did so without naming Sierra or Skylar. Essentially all they said was, "We're sorry for any upset feelings, but we feel as though we did a fabulous job. We feel as though we killed it." In the live stream, the only accusation that the CEO and the higher-ups discussed was the accusation that BeautyCon is not an inclusive company and not an inclusive convention. The CEO and the higher-ups, of course, saying that that is not the case and that body type had nothing to do with it. But with the initial attention that Skylar and Sierra's video got, there was a few people that did actually come forward specifying that this wasn't a one-time occurrence and that they had felt and experienced similar experiences. If it was this one-time occurrence, I would think, okay, it sucks, but also sometimes that kind of crap just happens. But with more people coming forward, there's obviously some sort of issue that needs to be dealt with. Have more food, properly train your staff, don't understaff your staff, and also remember that the fish rots from the head. Then in October, we have accusations of stealing from a smaller creator involving Norvina, who is the president of Anastasia Beverly Hills Cosmetics. Norvina was accused of stealing from photographer Jackie Gutierrez, and I hope that I am also saying that correctly, and I apologize if I am not. Jackie was very confident in standing up for themselves, but was unfortunately shut down by a very patronizing defense from Norvina, saying SpongeBob did it too. But people in the internet have seemingly forgiven Norvina and ABH because they still have quite a thriving career and a thriving makeup company. But also there have been quite a lot of rumors over the years that specify that this is not a one-time occurrence for Norvina or Anastasia Beverly Hills. Then in December, we have Jacqueline Hill again. another launch from Jacqueline Cosmetics, and I will be happy to tell you that it isn't to do with mold. It is, however, to do with PR, specifically tiered PR. This is the second launch for Jacqueline Cosmetics, and this launch was the highlighter collection that she was putting out. It was pressed highlighter, it was powdered highlighter, it was highlighter everywhere. Everything was bright, shiny, and colourful. Love it. Jacqueline specified in her company she wanted to make sure that micro-influencers were also accommodated for when it came to PR. So all of the people that were invited onto the Jacqueline Cosmetics PR list were excited to get their highlighters. I'm guessing I would be excited to get free makeup, and all of them assumed that they would be getting the exact same PR. But then the PR was received, the PR was opened, and it was found that the big influencers got the whole entire collection, whereas some of the micro-influencers were only receiving one item. Which, if you get onto someone's PR list and they say that they're going to send you PR, if you're expecting the big box that is shown off in the unboxing video to only get one item, it would be surprising. Like, if you see the whole entire video, like if you watch the video of like, these are my highlighters, and you only receive one as PR, I would be confused. Also, me being me, I would be wondering what I did wrong. And in saying that, one influencer even specified on Twitter, being Paige Owenning, that she was grateful, she was just confused. But also considering the last launch with the lipsticks and now this, would you not try and do everything in your power to make sure that not one single piece of drama, not one single thing that you do can be picked apart? Like, you may be over-assessing, over-analyzing, but would you not do that to make sure that your second launch is flawless after moldy lipsticks? But not only was there an issue with PR, but there was also an issue with split shipment. This one just confuses me. Essentially, people would make an order of multiple items and then they would receive their package, but only some of the items would be shipped out and not the other ones. And at the same time, people would successfully purchase products just to be told later that the shipment could not be fulfilled, meaning that they would not be able to receive their makeup because they didn't have the stock. So what I think has possibly happened is that there was a glitch on the website and more stock was added onto the website than was actually in storage. So when it all got bought out, people who bought it first were prioritized, and then eventually they got down the list and some people missed out because what was on the website wasn't the actual amount of what was in storage. So with all of this in consideration, it wouldn't surprise me to hear that the people who received split shipment actually weren't going to see the other makeup items because the items could not be fulfilled and they just hadn't gotten the message. Like, no one contacted them to tell them. It wouldn't surprise me if no one contacted them to tell them, because obviously something happened with the website in the first place that shouldn't have happened. So it wouldn't surprise me to hear that people just didn't contacted that should have gotten contacted. Right? So with this one, I'm not a brand owner. I'm not going to pretend that I know how to be a brand owner. But if I was a brand owner, if I don't know how to do something, I'm employing someone to do it for me. Part of being a brand owner, part of being a boss-ass bitch is knowing how to delegate. Right? No one's expecting you to do web design. No one's expecting you to do any of that, but people are expecting you to pay the right person and employ the right person to make sure that it is working flawlessly so that this kind of stupid thing doesn't happen. Hire the correct people, delegate the correct jobs, do the thing. So here's where I'm confused, because that's it. That's it. That's everything. It's done. I'm done. Hurrah! Here's the thing. I know that I'm missing a lot in this video. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot in it, but there's still some stuff that I'm missing. 2018 had the most. There was a lot in 2018. There was still a lot in 2019, but there wasn't as many stories. So the reason why my brain's like, I'm missing something, I think is because, one, I know that a lot happened on the internet when it comes to scandals, dramas, teas, all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of YouTube drama, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's makeup drama. Cool? Cool. So that's point number one. Point number two, I think people were genuinely scared to do anything wrong when it came to the beauty sphere of things after what happened to Tati, Jeffree, and James, because everyone was like, if I step one toe out of line, that could be me next. But also, at the end of 2019, that is when Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson released their second docuseries documenting the behind-the-scenes making of the Conspiracy Collection. So unanimously the beauty community was together on something. You had to have this palette. So we had a lot of crap happen in the middle of the year and the beginning of the year, but then also we had a really, really high note to finish off on. Even though opinions on Shane, Jeffree, and the palette have changed since then, it doesn't matter, because at the time people were hyped about this series, about this palette. So I think an amalgamation of people were scared to step a toe out of line. YouTube itself had drama, but that doesn't necessarily make it makeup drama, and 2019 for the makeup community finishing on a unanimous high note meant that there wasn't as many stories in 2019 in comparison to 2018, and I think that kind of carried on throughout 2020 and 2021 by the looks of it, but also the pandemic hit when it came to 2020 and parts of 2021, so there wasn't as much to do, I guess. I don't know. Either way, she's finished. But like, what's really melted my brain about all of this, because it's more than just one story, and I don't like it. It's pissing me off. It's melting my brain. It's making me quite angry, and I just don't understand why. But there are just so many stories where people are getting called out for legitimately bad things, and they should be called out for the legitimately bad things if they are true, and they should suffer the consequences for it. But the reason why the call out starts is because of some petty bullshit. I'm getting so sick of reading story after story of people using things like racism as a shield for you to have a petty bitch fight because your friend doesn't want to play with you. Grow the fuck up. You know that if you don't want to be friends with someone anymore, you can just stop. You don't have to either falsely accuse someone of something or save up all of the crap that they've done in the past behind the scenes that was offensive to use as a shield for your petty bullshit later. Like, you don't have to do that. Just stop being friends. Stop using important topics like racism as a shield for your petty bullshit. That's why my brain's melting, because as I said before, for example, Tati, she apparently knew of James's alleged predatory behavior, but she didn't come forward about it until he posted about another vitamin company on his Instagram. Either way, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, individual stories, the whole entire video. Just let me know what you think of everything, because I genuinely want to know your points of view on all of this. Last time I said in one of these videos that if you got this far through a video, you deserved a medal. I think with this video, I think you deserve a whole entire parade. And I'll make you the float. Tell me what theme you want, I'll give it to you. But please let me know what you think of all the stories, all the people, all the tea, all the drama, all the scandals. If you still like this kind of content, I still do like this content, I promise you. I'm just very, very exhausted right now. But also, please let me know what you think of my face. I'm very proud of her. Usually I'm a lot more excited. I'm too tired. I want to go to bed. It's midnight. I started this at like 3. I had one break to have food in the middle. I'm very sleepy now. Insert vine of I want to take nap here. I'm really happy with this. Like, I'm really happy with this. I just don't have the energy. I don't have the coffee. I finished that a few hours ago. I just don't have the energy. But please let me know what you think of this. I'm really proud of her. I think she's really cute. I wish I looked like this all the time. I'm a boss ass bitch. I'm powerful. Fight me like this. I dare you. You'll probably win. And I hope that this video hasn't exhausted you or ruined your day too much. And I hope that you are still having or are going to have a fantastic day, a fantastic week, a fantastic month, a fantastic year. And I hope that you are being as fantastic as always. And just remember what dear mother always says. If you can't say something nice, say something cruel.